So the project's a collaboration between the College of Journalism and Mass Comm and the Rake School here at UNL. What we're doing is working on a photojournalism app that is a web-based app geared towards tablets for photojournalism trips that go abroad throughout the year for our college.
We received an endowment for photojournalism that allows me to take students on international trips to emerging countries in which there's great need. I try to avoid using the word poverty because people typically feel either used or exploited, and just because it's poverty doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be negative or bad. Sometimes stories within poverty are also good stories.
I did one story on an orphanage there for kids with disabilities. So there was one little boy and a girl I spent time with, and their legs were underdeveloped, so they couldn't walk, and they had to scoot around. But they were adorable. The boy could break dance even though his legs don't work, and that's fantastic.
My class has been doing mostly the front-end design, and the Rake students have been developing the back-end of essentially a website that's geared towards tablets. So it's a mobile web app is kind of how we're referring to it as. It's got all the touchscreen elements and everything in there. The specific design process has been something that has been, I think, a unique process for all the students and faculty involved. Both the interdisciplinary nature of the project as well as the students getting kind of a real-world experience, Rakes working with designers and our students working with Rakes to get kind of both perspectives of how to develop an interactive product.
Working hand in hand with the Rakes program, it was an interesting design process. We would create a template or a wireframe and then present our ideas to the Rakes program, and they would kind of tell us, depending on the programming side, whether that would work or not, or whether they could make it happen. And so it was a lot of going back and forth.
We basically have an end goal for a project, and we take little sprints, is what they're called. Every 2 weeks we commit to a certain amount of things, and so we'll talk with Adam and Matt, and Gary's involved too, and also the journalism students, trying to figure out exactly what to do for each step of the process, what to do to build upon to get to that final goal.
We, as a college, have decided to use open source for this project to build upon the work that others have done so that we can get to the work of creatively telling stories and not be in the business of trying to solve solved problems. The flip side of that, the kind of flip side of the philosophical idea is that if you use open source to do something, then you should be willing to share back into that community, that you help out others who may be trying to do a thing. And we're doing precisely that. The code for this app is going to be open.
We have other teams that can't share their code. They're in industries where that would be very bad for them, their company. It would be anti-competitive for them to do so. But the journalism has more of like an ethos where that's kind of a cool thing to be able to do. And lastly, it allowed us to develop this application much more quickly than we would have been able to otherwise. If we weren't open source, we wouldn't have been able to use many of the tools that are also open source that really sped up the development process. This is all an immense amount of code that we would not have been able to or qualified to write in the amount of time that we had allotted to us, and there certainly wouldn't be a visible product.